Hey everyone, Brian Zane here with another classic pay-per-view review as nominated by my Patreon backers. Well, it's been a while since my last classic TNA review, that was Unbreakable 2005. I figured it was time for me to go back to the land of Impact and see what they had to offer for me in the mid-2000s. So let's take a look at TNA No Surrender 2007 from September 9th of that year at the Impact Zone in Orlando, Florida. This show was nominated by Liam Roberge over on patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret. 900 people packed the Impact Zone there at Universal Studios. The show also drew between 15 to 20,000 pay-per-view buys. Mike Tenay and Don West, of course, are on commentary. So what's the big story with TNA right now? Well, Kurt Angle presently holds all the gold. He has all the gold and therefore, by Backlash 2001 standards, all the power. If he could fit it into his schedule, he'd be the Knockouts champion too. So how did he get to hold all the gold in TNA? Well, we go back to Hard Justice, where at the time he was the TNA and the IWGP heavyweight champion. He was feuding with Samoa Joe, who was not only the X Division champion, but somehow the sole owner of both the tag team championship belts. So you had a winner-take-all match at Hard Justice. And during this time, they were inserting a lot of Karen Angle business into this feud here. Karen was getting more involved in Kurt's stuff. They were teasing the fact that Karen and Kurt might be getting a divorce, but psych, it was a swerve. At Hard Justice, Karen helped Angle and cost Samoa Joe the match, so Kurt held all the belts. So he actually had 4 official championships, 5 physical belts if you count both the tag titles, in his possession. And this was during the time when it was like peak, painkiller addiction, body breaking down, really shouldn't have been wrestling at the level he was wrestling at, Kurt Angle, yet he still had all this gold and was still performing at that level. This was insanity. They do a football-themed opening for this show again, and I just get flashbacks to Unbreakable 2005, which of course was around the same time period. Both were September shows happening around the time of the NFL's opening kickoff weekend. This show actually took place on opening day for the NFL, so big football imagery here. I guess it makes more sense this time around because you actually have a currently contracted NFL player involved in the card, so it makes a lot more sense in that way, but it's just interesting. The last 2 TNA shows I've reviewed were both September shows coinciding with opening kickoff weekend for the NFL. And let's see that aforementioned NFL star make his appearance right now in the opening contest. It's the first of Kurt's 3 championship matches on the night as he and Sting, the Dream Team, defend the tag titles against Team Pacman. That's Ron the Truth Killings, of course, presently known as R-Truth, and Adam Pacman Jones. Jones at the time was a cornerback for the Tennessee Titans of the NFL, so there's that kind of tie-in with TNA based in Tennessee and the Tennessee Titans, the hometown team, working together here, but it's not like it was a real harmonious relationship because at the time Jones was a real bad boy in the NFL. He's getting into a lot of trouble off the field, and in fact he was currently serving at this time a 1-year suspension from the league for being involved in an altercation at a Vegas strip club earlier in the year. It ended with shots being fired, people getting hurt. Nobody died, but it was a bad look, and so Jones served a 1-year suspension from the league as a result. In my research for doing this, it said that Jones' suspension was the first time in 44 years in the league where someone was suspended not having to do with substance abuse, which just does not sound true. There's no way that that's possible. So yeah, Jones made his debut at Hard Justice the previous month, and I thought that he and Ron Killings were at odds with each other then because Killings said in that show it's like he was going to get a hold of Adam Jones and to be trouble ahead basically, but now they're a tag team apparently. And so here's the real crux, the real kicker with this signing of Adam Jones to TNA is that the Titans barred him from doing anything physical in wrestling. Like Jones wanted to wrestle, but the Titans said, no, you can't do that. You can't touch, you can't be touched, you can't use weapons, you can't do any of this stuff. So like, what are they going to do with this guy? I think they really wanted this to be kind of their Mike Tyson moment, did TNA, because like, oh, here's a bad boy in sports who's like fresh off this big controversy. Let's scoop him up and use him in a wrestling capacity. But Tyson actually could get physical and stuff, and the Tennessee Titans wouldn't let Pacman do the same thing. So we'll see how that plays out. Also, the reason Sting is Angle's partner in this match is because he won the right to be in a match on Impact a couple weeks beforehand. However, he does not trust Kurt or Karen Angle at all in the least. One thing I noticed during Team Pacman's entrance was Pacman was totally stone-faced, did not play to the crowd at all during his entrance. I would chalk some of that up to him being kind of a super serious kind of guy who wants to take it very seriously, but also it's kind of to his detriment because wrestling is all about playing to the crowd. Even Ron Killings does that a lot, and just like none of that rubs off on Jones at all here. Sting and Truth open up the match. Pacman does not want to tag in. This whole thing, he jumps off the apron and says, no, you handle it. Like, it's so weird because like he says at Hard Justice justice. He wants to be like the best team player in all of sports, and so he wants to, achieve that end by winning the tag titles with killings. How's he going to do that if he powders out? Is he supposed to be the babyface here? I don't really get it. In the midst of all the action, Karen Angle makes her way to ringside. Sting wants her to go back, but she's having none of it. She shoves him, she slaps Sting in the face, then Sting with a very dramatic point up the ramp, but in the midst of his point motion, Karen goes down after she's been hit. There's a "you got bitch slapped" chant, and Sting tries to play it off like it didn't actually happen. He did not hit her. He did not. But, that's the thing. The camera angle keeps it really ambiguous. You don't really know if Sting actually hit Karen. She's certainly selling as such, but Sting denies it later in the night. So as that's going on, Angle checks on Karen on the outside while Sting gets back in the ring. Sting hits a Stinger splash on Truth. He almost throws himself out of the ring in the process. Angle hits the Angle slam on his own tag team partner in a rage, and then the camera misses the 3 count of Pacman Jones pinning the future Hall of Famer to win the tag team championship. So they missed that point there. So yeah, Team Pacman are the new TNA tag team champions. Adam Jones did absolutely nothing in the match except for pinning Sting, and that was literally it. And so I'm going to give this one star out of 4. I was, the action you did see in the ring between the other 3 men in the match was very short, very, very basic. Like basically Angle was in the ring just long enough to get warmed up and limbered up for the rest of his night. But that was about it. The bulk of it was Sting and Truth. And, the stuff with Sting and Karen was interesting. Pacman Jones was hella weak. Not much to this match really besides that. Also because Pacman Jones couldn't actually wrestle by decree of the team he was signed with, they had to add a 3rd member to Team Pacman so they could actually defend the titles later on. And so they brought in Consequences Creed, who of course is today known as Xavier Woods. Up next, James Storm takes on Rhino. It's kind of a modern retelling of the old Jake Roberts, Jerry Lawler feud they had in the WWF about 10 years before this, focusing on Rhino's alcoholism. He kind of fell off the wagon last month at Hard Justice during their barroom brawl match when Rhino was actually drinking a lot of the beer mid-match. And so yeah, Storm's mocking Rhino for his alcoholism. Haha, you loser, you have a disease. We cut to a backstage promo before the match by Rhino, and he's very frank here. Well, actually, he's Terry.
Yeah, did I fall? Yeah, 5 weeks ago I fell off the wagon. Am I an alcoholic? Yeah, Terry Guerin is an alcoholic.
It's a very good, intense promo. I love that Rhino uses the real life situation in this angle. I think it's very well done use of this real dark situation to further a storyline in wrestling. I think it's done much better and a bit more tasteful than say Hawk in 1998 or like Last Call Scott Hall around the same time period. This to me I think is done much better. They fight in the crowd before the match even officially begins, and really the first third of their match here is pretty much all crowd brawling. Rhino is shoved off some stairs, but he catches Storm in the air and drives him into the wall. They're just beating the hell out of each other here with Rhino having the advantage. He throws Storm into the ring. The match officially begins. More Rhino beat down. He goes to the gore, but Jackie Moore, who was accompanying James Storm earlier, distracts him, which allows Storm to make the cutoff. Rhino eventually makes his big comeback. He hits the gore, but James Storm kicks out of it. Rhino grabs some chairs from a fan. He stacks them up in the corner. He goes for what looks to be a Rhino driver, but Storm counters with a cutter onto the chairs, and Rhino kicks out of that. Storm brings in a table. Rhino cuts him off and moves the table to the corner. It's laying there for a while. We get a superplex. They're both down. Storm goes for a super kick. Gore through the table. Rhino wins the hard-fought match and gets a measure of revenge against the man who's been tormenting him for weeks. I give this one 3.5 stars out of 4. I mean, it was a great, really entertaining matchup. I went into it with no real expectations of what was going to happen, and boom, they blew me away right off the bat with a hot brawl to start things off. The action was just constant, ongoing, good back and forth, couple of big high spots near the end, really satisfying finish. You really couldn't ask for much of a better match, but we will be getting a better match later on, but this is a great kind of way to, really get the show into a high gear. The stuff in the opener with the tag titles, that match is kind of meh. The story was interesting, the match itself was crap, but this one here's got a good story and a really good match. After the match though, Rhino looks like he's trying to shove the mini keg spout up Storm's ass or down his trunks or something, but it breaks off. Jackie grabs him by the hair and he just sits there forever on his knees, hair being grabbed, fiddling with the mini keg before he finally stands up. And I think what happens next here is him calling an audible. He basically throws Jackie in the ring, hits her with the gore, the fans pop, and that's pretty much the end of it. But I believe, based on the fact that Rhino was just down there for so long, you can see him trying to reconnect something. I think what was going to happen next was Jackie was going to grab him by the hair, he sprays her in the face with the beer or something, and that would have been, all the fans would have popped either way. But because it fucked up and it broke, he decided, oh well, I'm gonna hit you with the gore, EC dub, and the fans are gonna love it. Backstage, Kurt's hopping mad about what happened earlier. Sting barges in and grabs Angle by the throat. Angle accuses him of slapping Karen, but Sting denies it. Jim Cornette shows up to break things up. He tells Sting to hit the showers and go back to the hotel. Cornette then tells Karen she's done for the night, and the Angles just have a good old freak out over it. Our next match has Robert Roode accompanied by Ms. Brooks going against Kaz. Now, Kaz recently separated from Serotonin, so he's no longer under Raven's spell, trying to make it on his own. While this is going on, Robert Roode is pulling shades of 1999 Jeff Jarrett, super like chauvinist pig, where he's berating his buxom female manager, his valet, or what have you. So basically, Robert Roode is being very mean to Ms. Brooks, and Kaz shows up to defend her honor, and now suddenly it seems that Brooks is smitten with Kaz, and now Roode is envious of all the attention that Brooks is giving Kaz. They wrestle for a while, they find themselves tussling in this suplex position, and before you know it, both of them topple over the top rope onto the outside. Crazy looking fall, and gosh, what's a girl to do? Who will Ms. Brooks want to console? Robert Roode or Kaz? She ends up really doing neither. Kaz almost runs into Ms. Brooks on the outside, but he stops. Roode decks Kaz from behind, and he crashes into Brooks. Ah, what a heel, and Roode continues to yell at Brooks while she's down. Roode pulls out a chain from his gear, he puts it around his fist. Kaz kicks the chain out of his hand, it flies out of the ring. Roode tells Brooks to go and get the chain, which she does, but while Roode and Kaz are still wrestling, she kicks the chain under the ring. Bobby has Kaz down, he wants the chain, but Brooks doesn't have it. They argue on the outside. Kaz with a big plancha to Roode, and Brookie likey. They wrestle some more, slingshot DDT by Kaz, big fucking pile driver looking thing I couldn't figure out the name of, and also the camera misses the actual point of impact when he drops him, although I wonder if that was intentional. Top rope face buster, another kick out. Man, a lot of false finishes here. Kaz goes for a top rope leg drop, but he misses. Roode hits the payoff and wins the match. I give it 3 stars out of 4. Really great work by these guys. I think that the story with Kaz and Roode and Ms. Brooks and where her allegiance lies is good as well. I think the match went a couple minutes too long past like the apex of crowd excitement, and they just kept doing move after move, and finally they go to the finish. So that was kind of my one little nitpick with this match. Backstage, Black Machismo is being interviewed about his upcoming match. He starts going off on a tangent about Jake Roberts and George Steele when Dr. Nash enters. You know, I didn't watch TNA around this time. I was familiar with some things going on, so like I had to look at why he was being called Dr. Nash. Apparently he was the psychiatrist and advisor to Karen and Kurt Angle during this time. Where did he get his degree? Anyway, Dr. Nash tells Lethal to lay down and do the job because Kurt doesn't have time for this match. He has better things to do with his time, like preparing for the world title match with Abyss. So, will Black Machismo lay down for anybody? We'll find out. Going into the next match for the X Division Championship as Kurt Angle defends against Black Machismo. Now, Lethal, they're building this up here as a real big kind of David and Goliath kind of thing. They're building this as Lethal's biggest match to date in his career because he is the youngest member of the TNA roster. He is a former X Division champion, but he only held it for like less than a week before dropping it, and he wasn't even involved in the decision, so he's looking for redemption here. He beat Christopher Daniels a few weeks prior, actually it was the previous month, to earn the title opportunity against Kurt Angle at No Surrender. Some good fundamentals to open the match. Eventually, Kurt with a big buckle bomb in the corner to get the advantage, and Angle is just so intense here on a whole different level than what we saw in the tag title match. You can just see it in the body language too. You just see in his eyes. The switch has definitely been flipped with Angle here. He is growing more frustrated each and every time Lethal kicks out of moves. And by the way, Lethal is just so quick here, not just with his moves, but just his motions. The way he flows in the ring is so good here and so like wise beyond his years. Like he's still killing it now in Ring of Honor, and he's doing amazing there. And it's crazy to think he was still on a great high level even, 12 years ago in TNA. Even like when they do like big double clothesline, it's so quick and fluid, hitting the ropes, hinged over the clotheslines. I love just the motion in this matchup. A German suplex, the backflip landing on Lethal, a big ass suplex off the top. It's so fun to watch this level of Kurt Angle because right now, as I'm recording this is around the time Angle's making his like kind of comeback nostalgia tour thing with WWE. He's doing the whole can he still hang thing with Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin. Obviously, a lot of time has passed since what happened then and now, and it's refreshing to see like, oh, current Kurt Angle still doing okay, but looking at 2007 Kurt Angle, who's still, he still has his demons, but he's still performing at this freakish high level. Multiple Germans, another kick out. Lethal counters the Angle slam with a very pretty arm drag, the Lethal combination, flying elbow drop, and we get a kick out from that. More suplexes, he goes for the Angle slam again, then the ankle lock, but in the transition, Lethal with the roll up and wins the championship, considered the biggest upset in TNA history at the time. time, Lethal is your new X Division champion. I give this match 4 stars out of 4. I know there's some other matches on this show that might lay claim to that or contend for it, but to me, nothing's going to top this match. Easily the best match of the night. You had me from the very beginning right until the end with the action. Great story being told, and just really cool to see Lethal get this really big moment in the sun. Huge upset victory for the championship against the established veteran Kurt Angle. Backstage, Jables, Jeremy Borash is with Black Rain. Of course, Black Rain is probably the most infamous Dustin Rhodes gimmick, second only maybe to Seven in WCW. This was really kind of at the bottom when like Dustin Rhodes really hit rock bottom like in real life. He was doing this, Black Rain gimmick with TNA. It was supposed to be like one of his alter egos or his split personality coming through, his darker personality. This only debuted like 1 month prior in TNA, so you're still kind of like getting the kinks worked out with the gimmick. You see him here with Jeremy Borash. He says, "This is Misty, my Arctic fox," and then he speaks in a bit of a rhyme or a poem about how Chris Harris is going to die. You can insert all your OSW references here, by the way. So Black Rain takes on Chris Harris in a rematch from Hard Justice. They fought last month, and Rhodes left Chris Harris battered and bloody. They took him out for a few weeks, so he's out for revenge here. It's a no DQ match. Harris begins in dramatic fashion with a huge dive to the outside. Harris with an advantage early on. He drives a chair into Black Rain's throat on the outside, but Dustin shakes it off pretty quickly and cuts off Harris. It bites a forehead. Some pretty good back and forth in this match, but nothing really crazy. Black Rain grabs his pickaxe-looking weapon. He calls it Darkness Falls, and the referee, Earl Hebner, tries to stop Dustin from using it, and in the distraction, Harris rolls Black Rain up in a small package to win. Kind of an upset fluke victory. That was kind of lame. It's no DQ. I know it's a deadly weapon, but come on, Hebner, it's no DQ. Come on now. After the match, Harris grabs some handcuffs and nails Black Rain with them, and the crowd sounds kind of indifferent to it. Dustin's bleeding at this point. Harris cuffs Black Rain to Dustin's own set of handcuffs. He goes for an attack on the outside, but Black Rain cuts him off, and it just so happens Black Rain is wearing the handcuffs key and a necklace around his neck. He unlocks himself and beats him up with the chair. Then the ultimate insult, he takes out Misty, the Arctic fox rat, from its cage and gently places the rat on Harris's chest and neck area. How evil! I give this match 1.5 stars out of 4. The match felt pretty rushed compared, if you're comparing it to say Rhino and James Storm earlier, which also has a member of AMW in it. This one is just kind of the weaker of the two. They both kind of have a similar start out with their no DQ or very violent matches with, or violent within reason, I guess, with a wild opening salvo. But yeah, this one had kind of a lame finish to me. It actually makes both of them look dumb, because it makes Dustin look dumb for getting distracted by Hebner and then the roll up to lose. And then Chris Harris looks dumb because he locks Dustin up in his own handcuffs that he has a key to, so he allows himself to get attacked after that. It just backfires on him. After this match, Black Rain would move on to a feud with Abyss after Abyss's intended rival went down with an injury, but I'll tell you about what happens with that a little later in this review. Backstage, the Christian Coalition are being interviewed. That's Christian Cage, AJ Styles, and one half of the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Champions, Tomko. Christian's accused of taking it too far with Samoa Joe in his rivalry, but Christian says Samoa Joe took it there first when he cost him his shot at the World Championship. And so then he's trying to hype up AJ and Tomko for their upcoming tag team gauntlet match, and Christian says, "Become a champion, just like your idol." And then AJ goes, "But Barry Sanders never won a championship." Even when Christian is becoming more of a serious heel, they still gotta slip some goofy shit into this exchange. Up next, the 10-team tag team gauntlet match to see who will become the new #1 contenders for the TNA tag titles, currently held by Team Pacman. This is not your traditional tag gauntlet match where it's just like, here's a team, here's another team, here's another team until you finally reach a winner. This is kind of an interesting spin on the Royal Rumble. It begins with #1 and #2, just two singles guys, and every minute someone else comes into the ring, and then you might occasionally get, both members of a team in the ring at one given time. And basically a team has 2 chances to win. So if one guy gets eliminated, as long as the other partner's still in there, they have a chance to win. And when it comes down to the final 2 men, then their respective partners come back out, and then you've got a straight up tag team match where it's one fall victory. It's almost too convoluted, but I think it's got legs, so we'll see how this match plays out. #1 and #2 are AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels, representing Triple X. #3 is Homicide of LAX. He begins by whiffing some kicks on Daniels and almost dropping Styles on his head. #4 is Chris Sabin of the Motor City Machine Guns. #5, Havoc of Serotonin. He's got a hot start. #6 is Petey Williams A Homicide gets eliminated, Canadian Destroyer by PD right off the bat. Styles eliminates Sabin. Number 7 is brother Devon of Team 3D. Number 8 is Jimmy Rave, Ring of Glory alum. I wonder if he still has that big sword. He makes his return to the company for the first time in 3 years. Number 9, Brother Ray. It's the first complete team in the Gauntlet with Devon still in there. They eliminate Havoc. Raven is number 10 on his own now that Havoc's been eliminated. Team 3D eliminate Raven almost right away. Number 11 is Shark Boy. His partner Eric Young won the number 20 spot, so we'll see him later. Shark Boy bites Devon's butt, but he walks right into Brother Ray, who tries to eliminate him by grabbing the fin of his mask, but the mask is too loose, so they eventually get him over and out. Number 12 is Sanjay Dutt. He's in with his partner P.D. Williams, but Williams is eliminated by Team 3D immediately afterward, along with Jimmy Rave. At number 13, it's B.G. James of the Voodoo Kin Mafia, VKM. Not so subtle stab at Vince McMahon. Number 14 is Hernandez of LAX. He sends Sanjay flying with the Cracker Jack. Number 15 is Tomko. So AJ's got a partner now. Tomko takes out Team 3D pretty much single-handedly. At this point in the match, numbers 1 and 2, AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels are still in this matchup here. And at number 16, Daniels' partner Elix Skipper from Triple X comes out. Number 17, Alex Shelley of the Machine Guns. He eliminates B.G. James. Number 18 is Lance Hoyt. He chokeslams Skipper out of the ring. Number 19 is Kip James of the Voodoo Kin Mafia. He takes out Sanjay Dutt. Number 20 is the aforementioned Eric Young. Tomko eliminates Hernandez. Eric Young takes out Tomko. Kip James with a big drop kick to eliminate Hoyt. Daniels and Kip James eliminate each other. We're down to Shelley, Styles, and EY as your final 3. So we get some fighting on the apron between Young and Styles. They both get back in the ring, but then Shelley and Styles work together to eliminate Eric Young. So now your final 2 teams here are the Motor City Machine Guns and the Christian Coalition of AJ and Tomko. The action, once you get to the official match portion, it's just okay. It's, you know, they've already been totally spent at this point, so they're not doing a whole lot in this matchup. But Sabin and Shelley are just lightning quick attacking on Tomko. Tomko's on the outside. Big suicide dive by Shelley. Styles and Sabin are in the ring. Sabin with the O'Connor roll, but Styles reverses it with one of his own and pins to win. So Styles goes wire to wire. He's number 1 in the matchup here, and he makes it all the way to the end. I give this one 2.5 stars. I think the match concept is very interesting. You know, I think that if you did a better job on the back end with making the actual proper tag team match more exciting, I think that would make for a better match overall. I think this concept has legs. I would like to see somebody try it today. I think like it's more fluid and unpredictable than your standard, you know, gauntlet match of like team, then team, then team. You get all this kind of like intersectionality, and you get all this kind of overlap with stuff. And you might have some double teaming stuff, but you might not because one guy might be eliminated already. So it's an interesting match concept. I'd like to see him try it again, or somebody try it again in the future. But yeah, that whole the second chapter of it, when it was the tag team match itself, nothing special. So yeah, Styles and Tomko became the new number 1 contenders. 1 month later at Bound for Glory, they would defeat Team Pacman to become the new tag champions after Pacman accidentally cost his team the match. In the semi-main event, you've got Christian Cage versus Samoa Joe in a bit of a grudge match. A few weeks ago on Impact, Christian and Abyss fought in a first blood number 1 contenders match for the TNA World Championship. Samoa Joe cost Christian the match, hitting him in the face with a chair, causing him to bleed. However, it's worth noting, Christian at this point has still not been pinned or made to submit in his 2 years in TNA. So very impressive. In retaliation to what Joe did, Christian attacked Samoa Joe in the ring, and then when some of Joe's family members who do the haka dance before his matches try to protect him, they beat up the family members as well. Big concerto to one of the dancers. I love that in the intro they do the haka dance for Joe, and he just makes his way out. He doesn't really take time. He just power walks down there. So you see the lower third saying Samoa Joe with dancers. Joe with a big fiery early start on Christian here. He swings him into the barricade, a huge suicide dive to the outside. So Joe's looking really strong here early on. Christian with a rope assisted low blow, and he regains the advantage. Christian with some good heel work here on Joe. He eventually makes his comeback, hits some hard shots. A Death Valley driver, Christian kicks out of that. Christian trips Joe into the corner and starts choking him out. He goes with the frog splash, but Joe dodges it. Joe with a powerbomb pin into an STF combo, and as he's got the STF locked in, you hear a very audible John Cena sucks chant. in the audience. And it's not one of the sing-along ones like with his theme today. It's just like, John Cena sucks. Because, of course, Cena at this time is using the STF as a finisher, and of course looks like shit compared to Joe's. So yeah, you tell him. We get a muscle buster attempt. Christian gets off the shoulders, but he eats a snap power slam. Up on the top turnbuckle, Christian with an inverted DDT off the top. My God, that looked good. We get a kick out. Joe gets the coquina clutch locked in. Christian is fading, but he barely grabs the ropes in time. Joe will not let go of Christian, and the referee is admonishing Joe, grabs him by the hair to break it up, and Joe slams the ref down. We get a muscle buster on Christian. That would be it, but of course there's no referee. Security guys enter the ring, and Joe takes them out one by one. A second referee shows up and disqualifies Joe. Match is thrown out. Some baby faces come in and try and calm Joe down, but he beats them up for their efforts. He's like hanging Christian over the top rope like a strap or something. Jim Cornette and his bodyguard Matt Morgan come in and break it up. They try and talk Joe down. Joe is eternally defiant, and that's where that ends. I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars out of 4. I was going to give it 3, but the DQ finish kind of knocked it down a peg for me. It is disappointing we didn't get a clear, decisive finish in this match for all they did. However, that does set up nicely their rematch at Bound for Glory the next month, where Joe would win the match in decisive fashion. Backstage, Kurt Angle is irate over losing his first 2 championships on the night. He's taking out his frustrations on Dr. Nash, who tells him he's going to lose everything if he doesn't focus. Angle tells him to go to hell. We then go back to the ring, where Mike Tenay is there with a big announcement that TNA is going to 2 hours starting the next month on Spike TV. You know, it certainly was a big game changer for TNA to go from 1 hour a week to 2. We then get a backstage interview with the new tag champions, Team Pacman. You know, despite the fact that Killings was left hanging by his partner on a couple of occasions, they are all buddy-buddy here. Adam Jones says the journey is not over yet. They have to go to his hometown of Atlanta next month for Bound of Glory. His words, not mine. We then hear this like dun 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 at the end of the promo. I think it was just a production botch with the music, but the way that played, it almost sounded like it was a very intentional like exclamation point to the promo. Like, promo's over, dun dun dun.
If you can't run with the big dogs, stay your ass on the porch.
In your main event, Kurt Angle with his 3rd title match of the night as he defends the World Championship against the Monster Abyss. Of course, Abyss is a former world champion in his own right, trying to regain the gold. However, some rocky times lately in his life as his former manipulator, manager, call him what you will, Father James Mitchell, has returned to TNA and says that his son, Judas Macias, is coming to TNA very, very soon. We get the formal introductions and we are on our way. Abyss opens up with some power and Angle's got to bide his time on the outside. Hits him with the amateur work on the legs early on. Abyss picks Kurt up and pats him on the head in the corner. Very condescending mind games. Angle gets in his face in response and goes on his tiptoes to try and like match his height. And then he starts to run away. Abyss grabs him by the singlet straps and Angle's like running in place. Like, when did this turn into a cartoon comedy match? What's going on here? And then Angle is dumped on the outside and oh no, Angle is visited once again by a cackling fan.
Clothesline that sends the champ out to the floor, and the challenger now has made big.
Abyss goes for a slam, but Kurt gets out of it and begins to attack Abyss's leg. Spends the next several minutes with a very long, methodical, drawn-out assault on Abyss's leg. Nothing too flashy, nothing fancy here. Just a lot of like elbows, leg locks, leg scissors to really wear down Abyss's leg. Like, he gets a moment of hope at one point, but he gets cut off. He gets a head of steam, but he's only on one good leg, so his strength is diminished. Hits the shock treatment, but Kurt kicks out. Angle with a suplex, hits the ankle slam, but Abyss kicks out of that. We get ankle lock time, and Abyss gets out of it, hits a choke slam, gets a 2 count. Angle back up, hits a huge moonsault from well over half the distance of the ring. He connects it beautifully, still a kick out. Back on the leg, Kurt goes. He starts to take off Abyss's boot, starts attacking the unprotected ankle and foot of Abyss. Goes for a diving knee on the ankle, but Abyss catches him with a goozle. Angle fights back. Black hole slam. Angle kicks out of that. So both guys have kicked out of each other's respective finishers. Another ankle lock with a grapevine this time. After a very hard fight, Abyss finally taps out. Angle's able to hold on to 1 title tonight, so he's got that going for him. First things first, I give immense props to Kurt for wrestling 3 different matches in this one night. Now granted, the first one not nearly on the same level as Abyss and Lethal. Like, it was more of a warm-up kind of thing. Like, he did maybe 1 or 2 actual moves in the matchup. Now the Abyss match, not on the level in terms of excitement and wall-to-wall excitement as the Jay Lethal match, but it still tells a really good story. I really enjoyed like how Angle attacks the leg and how Abyss has to try and fight his way out of it. It was still a very good story told, and everything was technically sound, and yeah, I think it was a very well done match, just not on that level of the Jay Lethal match. After the match, Angle makes his way back up the ramp. You think the show is over, but wait, here comes Father James Mitchell on the big screen. He says, hey, tough luck, kiddo. You tried your best. It wasn't good enough. Close but no cigar. Now your chariot to hell awaits. He starts laughing. Then all of a sudden you see this big fancy blade pop out from under the ring, the canvas. A big hole's torn open. A hand reaches out, grabs Abyss by the ankle, pulls him down to the depths of hell. Fog is spewing out of the opening in the ring as we fade to black. That was the official debut of Judas Messias, the person that James Mitchell alluded to in promos weeks back. And so these two would have a rivalry, but it got cut short when Judas got hurt on a show outside of TNA. So remember earlier when I said Black Reign would feud with Abyss for a bit, this was the stopgap. Black Reign and Raven would start fighting Abyss for a while, going through Bound for Glory and so forth. And then once Judas got better after Turning Point, that feud remained. One interesting thing about this, you've got this kind of like epic moment of Angle fighting in 3 different title matches in one night. Now, granted, he lost the first 2, but he won the 3rd one. He was able to hold on to that by the skin of his teeth and everything. But that story was really buried really quickly with this thing with Abyss and Judas. I guess it's like, not the end of the world because it's just a dramatic way to end the show, kind of like a cliffhanger note as opposed to just Angle being celebrating and stuff. But it does seem kind of rushed for Angle to have this big moment where he barely hangs on to the title and you don't see much of a celebration from him. My final grade for TNA No Surrender 2007 is a B+. Now, of the 3 classic TNA shows I've now reviewed, this one, Unbreakable 05, and Lockdown 08, this one to me falls in the middle, but it leans closer to quality for Unbreakable than it does for Lockdown. I think this is a really good example of like a TNA pay-per-view in their heyday when they're really just getting good. They've got all this talent in place to put out some really interesting stuff and really doing something vastly different in the ring from what WWE was doing around this time. Overall, it's a well-balanced pay-per-view. A couple of duds like the tag title match, nothing special, and then Black Reign versus Chris Harris was kind of but everything else on the show I thought was good to great, especially a Lethal versus Angle, and then also the Rhino James Storm match, which to me was a real gem of a match. I did not expect it to be as good as it was, and it just killed. Like my pick for like the 2nd best match of the night. And once again, huge props to Angle for the 3 matches in one night. It's insanity, like I said. Well, I hope you enjoyed my review of No Surrender. Thanks once again to Liam for picking this one out. If you want to play a role in determining which classic shows I review, be they good, bad, or somewhere in between, go to patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret, become a $10 backer or above, and you'll have the chance to nominate shows for me to review in the future. Next time, you know what? I don't know what it is that motivated me to look at this show. It's not, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of the show, but it's not for a few months away. So I don't know why I'm doing this early. Something drew me to it, and I want to review it. So next time on the Classic Review, I'm looking at Unforgiven 1999. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.